Hi, everyone. My name is Diana, and I'm sitting here with former police officer Sean Shapiro and managing partner of Diamond & Diamond lawyer Sandra Ziskind. And today we are discussing the ramifications of getting a drunk driving and or driving under the influence charge. So, Sean, start from the beginning. As a police officer, you notice somebody's a little swervy or what have you, or maybe not, and you're just pull them over.
Ever since mandatory alcohol screening came into effect, every single vehicle stop could involve a screening device use, meaning that they can make you blow into a box to see if you have alcohol in your blood. You don't need suspicion to use mandatory alcohol screening.
They just smelled your breath.
Well, that's the old way. If you have suspicion, you would use the standard demand. But if you have no suspicion, you can just say we're employing mandatory alcohol screening, and boom, you got to provide a sample, and you would be charged criminally if you refused.
So you, what if you're like, no, I'm not, I didn't have any drinks, like leave me alone, like I don't want to I'm not going to waste my time with this, like
it's not
I have my seatbelt on. Not an option.
Not an option. You must comply. Same thing with the demand for a roadside sobriety test. Now, the roadside sobriety test and the regular screening demand requires us to have suspicion. So whether it be admission that you had alcohol or observations and an odor of an alcoholic beverage on your breath, that sort of thing, then we would have another reason to ask for it.
Okay, so scenario one is you accept, you do the breathalyzer, you're caught with a little over the limit, you get the drunk driving charge, DUI.
So if you're over the Ontario limit of 0.05 blood alcohol content, you're going to get a suspension for 3 days if it's your first time. If it happens again within 10 years, you're getting a longer suspension. If you are over 0.08, which is the criminal limit, then you're going to be charged, or you're going to have a demand read for another breath sample to be taken with a breath technician at the station or hospital. And then if you fail those two tests, you are going to be charged criminally.
So over the course of a 10-year span that you're subjected to this potential of like the one time you do it, one time and that's it.
So the 10 years applies to a Warren range suspension. So if you get in between that 0.05 and 0.079, that's where you're not going to be charged criminally, but you're going to fall into a suspension category. And that's the 10-year.
So it takes a while to get to that drunk driving charge.
Well, usually it takes one sample and you go straight up there because it's all based on what's in your blood. So let's say you had one drink in it and you had more than that legal limit for driving, because you have to be under 0.05 to actually operate a motor vehicle in Ontario, and it's pretty much the same in everywhere in the country. Then you're just taken off the road. You can't legally operate a vehicle, but you're not going to jail.
Okay, see, so the blood out, that's important because I can take back 4 drinks for every 1 drink Sandra takes. She's a bit of a lightweight, right? So like I can have, if I had for every 4 alcoholic drinks that I can take back, she's well in the bag, right?
Everybody responds to alcohol differently. That's why there's another charge called impaired operation.
Right.
See, if I see you all over the road, that's impairment. That doesn't, regardless of what your blood alcohol content is, I'm going to go after a charge of impairment.
Okay.
So you have your 80 and above alcohol content for criminal charges, but impaired operation on its own is a charge criminally.
Got it. Okay. Then scenario 2, you say, I'm not rolling into this machine.
Then it's a refused charge.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to get a conviction on because it's not there's no toxicologist being called into question here. It's the fact that you said no or
Then you drag him to the station?
Then you're going to be processed. You might be released at the scene, but you're not driving because you're going to get a suspension for your vehicle and it's going to be impounded. Same consequences as if you failed, but just by saying, no, I don't want to do it. And people think this is going to be easier or I don't want to blow because I'm going to go way over and they end up screwing themselves because they don't get to do the dance in court.
Okay. And then Sandra, as I think we touched on this a little bit in the last topic that we did, but I'm more or less focusing on the charge issue here. So you get the charge of the drunk driving or it can get reduced to a careless or what have you. Then you have if you just run us by us, what are the options that you have?
So if you get criminally convicted of any charge, whether it's careless, drunk driving, then in the civil case, it's binding because you can't go to one court and say one set of facts and then another court and say a different set of facts. So once you have a criminal conviction, that's what's admissible at the civil level. Once you have a Highway Traffic Act, that's admissible at the civil level. So if you get off the charge at the criminal level,
which rarely happens.
well, it happens more often than it should, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Then you're coming into the civil system, and you can then say, no, it wasn't true. You can basically dispute it.
Yeah.
Now, what we do in civil cases is we call the police officer at the scene as a witness, because the police officer, that's you, yes.
Used to be.
Yes, it used to be. But so it's weird because in criminal cases, they paint out they go after the credibility of the police officers with vigor, say they're racist or sexist or whatever. They have all these sort of things, and they start to peel away at their on our area of the law. When the police officers testify, it's literally like the most, nobody goes against it.
It's in stone.
It's in stone. It's like literally the most perfect person, because the idea is, why would they lie about a traffic thing? Like, why would they lie about fault or traffic things? So in a case like this, if a person, for example, showed all of the symptoms of being impaired but didn't get convicted, so I would call somebody like Sean to the stand or get a witness statement from Sean, which says they were drunk at the scene. I could smell alcohol. I could see they had all the wits about them. And
then they refuse, and then he did this, and then
and all of that goes to credibility.
One question. I forgot. Do you guys still make them walk the line?
So that's something that became very popular in the last 5 years.
Really?
Because that's roadside sobriety. And we now train the entire police service, at very least any traffic-related officer. And the goal is to have every frontline officer have the ability to do that roadside sobriety test. The reason being is there was a limitation. We didn't have enough boxes,
right?
The screening devices.
Yeah.
So they trained everybody to be able to make an assessment without the box.
Yeah.
Relying on the box is silly. If I see someone who's a fall down drunk, I'm going to make the arrest.
What if you're just a clumsy person? Like, what if you're wearing, you're wearing
She's
heels,
looking directly at me, Sean, because she knows I fall from everything.
Literally, Sandra,
I fell yesterday from standing. It's true.
You just
It's true.
collapsed.
The sobriety test replaces the roadside screening device. Neither of those results in a criminal charge unless you refuse them. What has to happen after that is the further breath demand, where you have to go to the station and speak to a qualified breath technician for further testing. Now, that could also be a drug recognition expert, because if you think it's drugs rather than alcohol, they're going to have you blow into a machine to remove the chance of it being alcohol and then proceed as drug. And then they have a whole battery of tests they would do for that person outside of the regular alcohol ones. It's actually, it's a huge deal.
So much work goes into that.
Truly.
So he tells you, I saw them to drink. I made them walk the line. They were stumbling all over the place. And then you say to them, okay, then this is all the evidence that you need. That's what you're going on.
Well, in civil cases, don't forget, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's on a preponderance of the evidence. So what's more likely than not? So if I have the credibility of somebody like Sean on the stand, and they're saying the person should not have been driving, they were not fit to drive, that's enough for me. I don't really need more than that. That's enough. That's really like the most credible person coming down and saying, because again, the juries feel, especially in traffic cases in particular, why would the officer lie?
Right.
Really.
What reason is there?
There's no incentive for them to lie. I mean, really, why would they lie in criminal cases too? But somehow, with all the conspiracy theories and all these law and order SVUs, people are like, they're planting evidence and whatever.
It's too much.
I'm working towards a free toaster and a trip to the Caymans.
Whatever.
Always
yeah.
the toaster.
So people always have those like conspiracy. I mean, I like to believe, in general, police don't lie, period.
Yeah.
But especially in traffic cases.
Right. And Sandra, in the case of a collision, what kind of ramifications can we see from the insurance company level, from the lawyer's level, from the civil level? Does your insurance company fully cut you off?
So no, your insurance company never really fully cuts you off. There's no such thing.
What?
They don't fully cut you. I mean,
they do the 10-year thing in the
they cut you
in the box.
Listen. You're still covered up until that point, and you'll be covered if you drink and drive or do something stupid while you're driving. You're still covered.
Okay.
The levels of coverage will change, because if you're convicted, it will only be $200,000 as opposed to the $1 million that you paid for, or the $10 million you paid for. What they may do, and what they usually do, is after you get such a difficult conviction, is say, find another insurance company.
Right.
And then you have to be provided or have the eligibility for insurance. And you have facility, which is like ridiculous.
Facility means you're a horrible, horrible, horrible driver, or you've been convicted way too many times. And then
facility driver? That's what they call it?
You're in facility. And there's only a few insurance companies. No, you're in facility. It's called facility.
In facility.
Yeah. So you go. So they put you in facility. and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's for a certain amount of time until those charges they've sort of shown that you've been a good driver over several years.
You're in purgatory. You're in a place.
Correct.
I thought it was where multiple insurance companies get into a pool and have to kind of deal with that, because you have to have the ability to get insurance. They can't say no insurance is available, but that could be $10,000 a month.
I like that you said that, the purgatory. That's true.
It's a ridiculous amount of money. Certain insurance companies will respond, and they have to respond. Part of them operating in Ontario is there's certain rules that they have to abide by, including that people have to be able to get insurance. But Sean's right. They don't have to provide it at a reasonable rate.
It's obscene.
Obscene rate, right.
Okay, so you get the charges, you get the insurance. Now you want to do, let's say, a cross-country trip, or you want to, and I don't know, maybe you're not drinking, but let's say you get pulled over for whatever, any kind of infraction.
So you being charged with impaired operation, this is where we're going with?
Yeah.
And you want to, let's say, do a road trip to go visit the mouse at Disney?
Yeah, let's say, like, you want to do, like, whatever, like, yeah.
You're not going to Disney because you can't cross into the United States. They will deny you. You're not suitable for acceptance into the United States if you have a current charges that are criminal, or if you've been convicted of a criminal offense.
What?
Yeah, they can deny you entry. In fact, we deny people from Canada all the time.
So you get to the border, and they can literally say, no, you have this drunk driving charge from 5 years ago, because that purgatory time that you're in.
Well, that purgatory is
that's something
insurance.
different. That's insurance. Yes.
But in terms of criminal charges, you are a convict, and until you've had that pardon where you've applied for it, you're not getting. They very well will or may deny you, and they can deny you for 5 years. They can deny you for life. Like they just say.
So it's the same category as like assault or this, or it falls under the same.
Criminal's criminal.
Whoa. Did you know that?
Yes, the only I did know that. The only way you could travel to the States is if the only conviction that they would allow you to still travel to the States, and Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is if it's an absolute discharge, which is very rare, and it happens in almost like it has to be first time conviction, a very minor offense. Other than that, you can't travel to the U.S.
So you've moved on with your life at this point. You got the drunk driving charge as a young driver. You get charged. You go through the ringer with the court system and what have you. And then later you have a family and you want to do a little road trip and you want to do that stuff, and that's it. You're gonna have to get one of those sheets of paper.
Pardon?
Yeah, pardon.
You have to apply for that, and if it's deemed that you are eligible, then you can process that, and with the help of a lawyer, usually, and then you may be acceptable at that point.
So you have to show things for the pardon, like you're in good character, you haven't done anything else, there wasn't subsequent convictions, you're generally a good character person that made a mistake when you were very young.
Yeah,
and oftentimes they will consider it under those circumstances, but you have to have a very clean record.
What a stain on your life.
Oh yes, I know people who haven't been able to travel to the U.S. because of it, and
it's crazy.
I knew a person who was convicted of a theft under, so it was like a minor theft, and I mean it's still a theft. Theft is still a theft, and couldn't. That was it. Couldn't go to the States.
And the pending court is enough. Like the fact that you have charges pending is enough to have them deny you.
And this is both driving and flying into
correct.
The other country.
They have access to the same computer system. Correct.
Whoa! But it doesn't across country Canada.
Within Canada, you're free to travel.
Yeah.
But
just across that border,
it's about crossing out of the country.
I didn't know that. I don't think anybody actually knew that one.
It makes for an interesting conversation, especially if it was a 3-hour drive to get to the border, and you've got to the airport, you spent money on tickets, and you do pre-clearing in Canada,
right,
to get into the States.
Wow.
And that's the end of your trip.
And by the way, those that are convicted, sorry, they know.
Yeah.
Because I worked at the prosecutor's office for a very short period of time, but anytime somebody was taking a plea deal, one of the first things we would tell them is, by the way, and that's why I know the difference between the absolute and not, because if they would plead to the absolute, sometimes we would say, listen, if you plead to the absolute, at least you can still travel to the U.S., right? That was the whole thing.
That was the hooker.
That was the hooker. So, so they know they can't travel to the U.S. They know when they're taking the deal or when they're convicted, they know.
So not worth it.
What they may not know, though, is when they're doing the dumb stuff, they don't know, 3 months, 6 months down the road that they're not going to be able to do it. So when they're doing the deed is when they need to be understanding this.
Are any other consequences you can think of? Because that was a heavy one. That was intense.
So we got travel. We've got being able to afford insurance employment, potentially,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think we would handle that well here.
No. And look, things follow you. You can Google people. When you when you're especially when you're involved in a fatality car accident, it follows you wherever you go. All you have to do is Google somebody's name,
Right.
and you can see what they were involved in and what they weren't involved in. And I'll tell you something, as an employer, we Google everybody's name,
Right.
because we want to see if there's any bad stuff that's attached to them or not bad stuff that's attached to them.
You see a newspaper article of them.
Correct. So and so
so
was involved in an accident
Right.
that killed so and so. I'm not hiring that person in my firm.
Right.
So
And even thereafter, right? Like, especially if you're like here at Diamond and Dove, we do personal injury. We help people who have been injured in car accidents. So
Yes.
that's like a clear line right there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even if you're in the trucking industry or policing industry,
Your risk.
That's it. Like that's it. Oh my God. I cannot believe that.
listen, something I try to teach my kids, and I'm sure you're the same thing, is especially nowadays, everything follows you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go away. So be very, very careful with A, what you're doing, B, what you're saying, and C, what you're putting online.
Right.
In 2000, when I joined the police service, they said that you're probably on camera 15 times a day. Well, in 2025, that's probably 500 times a day.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah. There is zero reason to be. I don't like the fact that people still do it is really unfortunate. But I hope after listening to this episode, everyone understands the severe repercussions of getting that charge and that stain, if you will, on your driving record. Because as Sean mentioned, they can pull up what you did from the moment you got your driver's license, any run-in with the police when they are pulling you over. Be smart. Don't make stupid decisions. Drive safe, everyone.